welcome to today's NewsFlash, a interview session that NEO organizes when there's some interesting or big developments taking place with one of the companies that is listed on our exchange. And today we're going to talk about EV technology. I think you have now been listed with us for a meaningful period of time and gone through some of the unique market circumstances that our world has experienced in the last 6 to 9 months, but lots happening at EV technology. For those participants to this webinar who maybe don't know EV technology that well, could you give us, the highlights of the organization? What is the organization all about? What are you doing, and maybe where are you in your journey today?
Yeah, absolutely. And Jos, always good to have a chat with you, a bit of a catch up with some of the listeners. I started EV Technology Group because I'm passionate about cars. You saw when we did the initial ringing of the bell, I was, sitting in a MOKE, honking the MOKE, so to speak, to announce our listing on April the 12th. And I really started the company because, I love cars. And if you look at the EV space, like very simply, there's really not anything that really I would like to buy. So I decided to change that, founded EV Technology Group. And, one of the really exciting things that one of the most iconic brands that is out there for me is really MOKE. And with our mission to, electrify iconic brands, I think MOKE is really that cornerstone first acquisition. That's why it's significant. And it's, great to, just be chatting about that today. But that's in a very sort of nutshell what our group's about.
Yeah. So MOKE, the starting point, and we have here with us Isobel, the CEO of MOKE. Isobel, could you tell us a little bit more about yourself and maybe about MOKE? Why is MOKE the cornerstone of that vision that Wouter has developed?
Absolutely. Firstly, Jos, thank you very much for the kind invitation today. It's great to be here. My background, so as you mentioned, I'm the CEO of MOKE International, and I've been with the business for the last 3 years, since midway through 2019. My background is wholeheartedly automotive. I've worked for some great brands, had the opportunity to work for Jaguar, Land Rover, Rolls-Royce in the past, which has led me in quite an interesting journey towards MOKE. What's really, really appealing for me is, the legacy of these amazing brands. But when you look at these large automotive brands of today, trying to turn the supertanker and leapfrog into the future is very, very difficult. And so for me, we're in this perfect place right now where we spent the last 3 years electrifying our brand. And now together with the power and the opportunity of EVTG, it gives us the chance to really scale into the future with a brand with a long history and stories to tell. So
why EVTG? What got you excited about them to become your core partner for the electronification of the vehicles?
I think what's wonderful about EVTG is the breadth of the value chains that in the future can now support us in scaling. As we electrify into the future, whether it's looking at componentry, production facilities, or the benefit of working as part of a larger business, it gives us the economies of scale that would be otherwise inaccessible. And really, like I said before, this opportunity to then leapfrog into the future and scale across markets.
Yeah. And where are you today? So, Wouter, you said you've been honking the MOKE at the market open, but where are you today? Without sharing, of course, any information that would be material. We have to be careful about that.
Yeah.
But where are you today from the perspective of making this iconic and now electrified vehicle available to all those who are waiting for you?
Yeah, when we first started discussing around the acquisition of MOKE, of course, working very closely with Isobel, we also worked on like the go-to-market strategy. And one of the key things that we did, and this is kind of like how, for example, the entire automotive industry is kind of moving, is we built, because MOKE is such an iconic brand, we built out a flagship store called Casa MOKE in France, which looks like an amazing boutique, super luxurious. We've shared pictures with our investor audience via press releases. I'd encourage to check out the Instagram of MOKE as well. And then combine that with a very strong targeted direct-to-consumer website that went live 2 weeks ago. And this is really the new way that you can quickly reach customers, control your brand equity, improve the margins across the business. And we've been starting deliveries in France in June of this year, and that's the reception is just phenomenal. I mean, if whether you go to the store or you see the excitement of people, I think it's really hit a lot of important points with customers, and that's really exciting to see.
Yeah, and that is what I wanted to hear you say. That is, you are delivering. And all of this is all very tangible, very real, full execution upon your plan, and I'm sure in the nearby future you will share some more information about, as I said, how the take up of the car is developing. But as we just said, that is probably more material information. Now, enormous achievement, the setup of Casa MOKE, of course, a big flagship store to bring it to the market, your unique go-to-market model, big developments, but then it doesn't stop. Like, I'm just looking here at the news feed, and lots of things that happened. The one, you fully acquired MOKE for 100%. You announced the acquisition of FabLink, bringing in some very impressive new people into your organization. I'm thinking here about Mark Stubbs, who has a very fascinating background. Like, can you tell us a little bit more about everything that's going on? Like this sounds like you got the wind in the sails.
Yeah, like when I was looking at how to build our business, what became very obvious to me, also when I look at my own skill sets and what you need in the team, and to be successful in automotive manufacturing. I mean, you just said it, we're delivering. Automotive is extremely hard. That's why very few succeed. So to have that manufacturing capability in-house, rather than to spend your first 100 million of investor money on fixed assets that are not contributing until you've really built them, like, we basically made the decision to acquire key manufacturing capabilities so that we can build brands such as MOKE on top. And FabLink was already the contract manufacturer producing MOKE. So when you look at sort of synergies across the group, I think that was definitely one of the motivations. That combined with some of the key people that we've brought on board, like Mark Stubbs in terms of design, Dan Birch, in terms of chief products officer coming from Lotus. Like, that's how we sort of strengthen our team with people that have experience in those spaces that we needed.
So if I take a step back, and I heard a lot of components already now throughout our discussion, but I am an investor, or I'm a shareholder in your organization, and I'm looking at what you do, and I see lots going on. If you would say, and I'm going to come to you, Isobel, because asking you the question, from a MOKE perspective, what would you say are the 5 things that make your organization unique in comparison with what other organizations are doing? And that can be established players, or that can be new entrants in the market. Also, what makes you unique, and what do you think should we all really be aware of and focus on?
I think where we sit right now, and I will, Jos, try to separate these into 5 things, but where we sit is in the perfect position between legacy and a startup. So number 1, we have a brand with great brand heritage. You know, the stories that we can tell about being in James Bond films, Brigitte Bardot driving our cars. You know, these are things that would cost millions and millions of dollars to invest into in terms of development of a brand. Number 2, even though we are a legacy brand, we have absolutely no legacy infrastructure. So we don't have a global dealer network that we're trying to take on a journey. We're not producing thousands of units of internal combustion engines that we have to move away from. So this no legacy means that we really can run fast. And I think the third thing is it's the team. And this is what Wouter touched on before. This is about blending the very best, whether it's from automotive or whether it's not from automotive, because in effect, all OEMs or successful OEMs of the future will be technology businesses. And we are acutely aware that this is the direction of travel, and we're really excited by that. So I've not named 5, I've named 3, but I think those are the top 3 for me.
Usually I say 3. I don't know why I said 5 today. Like, I must be exuberant and looking for much more. And Wouter, just to be clear about one thing, in this space, in the EVT space, you are not looking at investing in Bitcoin or things like that that I see some of your peers doing in this business.
It's not necessarily in Bitcoin, although there have been interesting developments in like the NFT space with some OEMs, which kind of, I think, take the wrong approach. I don't think making like a McLaren 720S available in NFTs is the right way to go. However, we are looking at innovations in that space. And why can we do this? It's like Iso said, we have a blank sheet, we have a blank canvas upon which we can draw our strategy, and we own the necessary things that otherwise other NFT platforms really have to push to get the door open. I think that's one of the competitive strengths that we have.
But that's funny, in fact, because of course you know who I was referring to when I was making that comment. I could have said Dogecoin, but then it takes us to, in fact, what is a real value proposition around NFTs, and you guys are thinking about it, which again tells us a lot about your breadth and your passion. So you have a bit of a view of where what you do, where you are today, what your focus is, what your differentiators are. The next question I'd love to ask you, I have to ask you that, of course, but is how do you look at the way forward? Like what is your longer term strategy? If you take your organization where it is today, executing upon the initial plan with all those differentiators that we talked about, where do you see yourself in 3 years?
Yeah, I think a very good example in terms of our long-term strategy is looking at a business such as Louis Vuitton. If you look at Louis Vuitton, like, don't buy me on the exact numbers, but something like 80% of their revenue is really derived from a few core brands, but they have a breadth of long-tail focus of diversity across brands, across multiple different, use cases. I think from our perspective, we're very much looking at it. What brands are iconic? There are lots of them, whether it's in the United Kingdom, Italy, Germany, United States, that have sufficient brand equity that there's really something there. Maybe there's still owners groups, Reddit groups, like you name it, and to craft stories around those brands and either take what's there and bring that into the electric sort of age, or taking maybe projects for which people are fundraising at the moment and absorbing that within our group. That's kind of like what we're looking at the long term, and really building out like a very diversified, house of brands, if you will, within our group, which is supported by some core technologies. Like, I think there's a lot of interesting, of course, we made our first announcement of FabLink. There are businesses like FabLink that are under the radar that we know about because we have a team that has worked in automotive for, combined experience of however many years, that just knows exactly which players are really sort of key. And I think that will give us like long-term sustainability and sort of competitive advantage in the market as well.
So is it fair to say, if I understand you well, that on the one side, you're looking at expanding your portfolio of brands? MOKE is your cornerstone, as you said at the beginning. And then in parallel, you're looking at expanding along the value chain within the frame of the entire, manufacturing of these vehicles.
Correct. Like if you look at maybe some other players that, well, what I see a lot is that there are solutions being created for problems that are not really there, or and that kind of goes wrong. Where I'm more believing is to be a customer of my own products within my group. So if MOKE needs certain components for which we're paying, something, then we know these players have quite a high margin. We might go and decide to either do that ourselves or acquire that business or a like-for-like business, so that we have margin improvement across the group. And this is kind of like within every sort of luxury group that you typically have, there's like a ruthless sort of execution machine underneath that actually makes it possible that all these products on top have such a high margin.
Horizontal expansion, vertical integration. How about distribution? How do you guys see your distribution on the longer term? Isobel, maybe put that question forward to you. So you have a very efficient model today, leveraging Casa MOKE, leveraging your web presence. How do you see that evolving, and how do you see expanding your reach further and further, internationally, globally?
Yeah, I think internationally, and Yoshi just mentioned it there, absolutely. The international focus is clear for us. That's the next step. So this year we've successfully launched into Europe. The next area of focus will be North America, and then closely followed by Southern Hemisphere. But how we do that will be a very fine balance between a slick customer journey that's delivered online with a digital presence, but also we know that we need to have a physical presence. Assets need to be delivered to customers, and we need to build relationships with our customers geographically close to where they sit. Can we do all of this ourselves? Well, we'd love to, but the Tesla model is not quite for us. But we see a very careful blend of wholly owned flagship stores together with a direct-to-consumer proposition geographically across the world.
Yeah. Do you consider, I'm trying to read between the lines here, do you consider some partnerships in other parts of the world?
Absolutely. I think it would be foolish of us to think that we can build close relationships in every corner of the world with our customers physically. So we will absolutely be forging strategic partnership relationships. What we need to really ensure, though, is that this online to offline relationship with our customers is absolutely we absolutely nail it. I think it's very difficult. And as before I mentioned, for legacy businesses, this has been very, very difficult because of the separation of the retail value chain. We've got the opportunity to build this from scratch and build it with a digital focus for digital native customers. Our cars are connected. Why can we not be connected to our customers as a brand? Yeah. And that it has to be at the front focus for us.
So I'm going to take you both by surprise. What's the next car you're looking at? Okay.
Wouter, would you like to answer that one?
Or for EVT? As I would like to always say, watch this space. Okay. We've not been doing nothing since April the 12th, so I think everyone will be positively surprised in the summer.
Excellent. I'm not going to push you any further because this is, of course, information that is both confidential if you want to make it happen and you want to make it happen properly, and it could also be material in nature. But I think you started with what is a fabulous vehicle, and just for the audience, I'm excited about that vehicle also, but I probably shouldn't be saying that. But I hope to be on your list soon. Let me see what we have here as a question coming in. I think this is, what is this? Someone that is making you a proposal to help you, I think, with your product strategy. I would say, Stuart, thank you for the question, and we'll definitely, or the suggestion, and we'll definitely make sure that Isobel and Wouter have your contact information. I would like to move into a bit of a different way now of looking at the organization. I think everything that's happening is very exciting, and what does this mean for investors? I gonna quickly have a look at the market and the market chart. So, as I said earlier, we've been in a pretty tough last 6 months, 8 months. We know all the reasons for that, whether it is inflation, interest rates, geopolitical challenges, and just name it. Now, I'm an investor, and today, I'm looking at the markets, a little bit hesitating about what I do with my portfolio. How should I look at the EVT group as an investor? Like, how should I look at your share price? What should I take into consideration? If I'm a big believer in this space, what should I take into consideration when making a decision towards EVT? And again, to be very clear to everyone, the objective there is not to give anyone investor advice. That is not our role, and neither of us can do that. But it's more talking about what should I take into consideration, and what are the characteristics about EVT that should be important to me as an investor.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of topics there potentially to cover, but I think if you just look at, let's start with the macroeconomic climate. Like one thing that sort of, I would consider ourselves building like a luxury group, or more sort of at least like a high margin type of business at lower volume, so with fewer customers. That group typically is, whether we're in a recession, we don't know. Like the answer is not very clear, but it's more recession proof. Like people that have bigger wallets typically are not as susceptible to, let's say, energy swings, price inflation of food. Like those are not like primary concerns. So even though I'm concerned as a global citizen, those are not necessarily things that impact our business. Now, second of all, when you look at kind of what we're building as a group, I think what investors should also like is that we're not a full risk-on investment that maybe some of the other EV companies are, that have gone through a SPAC, that at the moment have zero revenue, no real cars on the road, etc. I think the combination of this very solid manufacturing business that has been in business for 15 years, including FabLink, that is, and this is public information, right? That does around 120 million in revenue, that has, customers across the globe, combined with the more sort of risk-on investment into the different brands, gives a much more diversified exposure to the space. And I think that's what should make it very compelling for, that's of course why I'm excited. And we have had different offers to go more the sort of SPAC route and much higher valuations, etc. Like instead, maybe this is, and Jos, you're Dutch, so you understand this maybe, but the sort of to build something from the ground up and then slowly build on different things, it's much more sort of my style. And I think in the end will be more sustainable rather than trying to fight for, meeting your deadlines or milestones every quarter that you promise. And I think that those are some of my, perspectives on that.
Yeah. Isobel, any thoughts that you want to share from that perspective?
Yeah, I mean, for us, I think Wouter touched on it on this higher margin side of the market. I think particularly focusing on MOKE, yes, we are absolutely a luxury brand. We are reclaiming, our position as the luxury beach lifestyle brand, but we're accessible luxury. This is a price point that isn't £250,000 or dollars per vehicle. So we've got a very large total addressable market. In technology terms, we've already MVP'd. We've proven this out. We know it works. We've geographically, focused in on one market, then to the next. And, it's through constant iteration in tech terms that we're improving the model as we go. So it's a very efficient and de-risked way of us now scaling across markets, which I'm particularly excited about, and together with EVTG, that can help us accelerate this journey.
Yeah, I heard you both saying it, and I'm going to repeat it because I think it's such an important word in your value proposition, and it means a lot, and every investor should think about that. Luxury brand, that means something, and that means something with respect to margins. That means something with respect to your, as you said, targetable market. And then with one other big benefit that you brought up earlier, Isobel, that is with a brand that is there. Like you said, the amount of dollars that you have to invest to build branding, brands, and becoming iconic. We all know what that takes and how complex that is. And you have that in your back pocket also. And then, Wouter, to your point, the building approach. It's not about promising a dream and then hoping that you can achieve it. It's building up a sustainable, long-term business with tremendous growth potential. I think those are interesting factors to think about, and that is what you want to look at when you compare it with any other investment that you would like to make in this space. A good question that came up is lots of talks about supply chain issues in the industry. How are you guys managing that? Are you experiencing those issues? And what are you doing to mitigate those risks?
Should I take that one? I'll volunteer that one, Wouter.
Yeah, go ahead.
I mean, it's an interesting question because demand generation certainly isn't an issue for us. Our focus is certainly on managing the supply side of the business. It's no secret since post-COVID, the devastating situation in the Ukraine, that lots of raw materials are in short supply. But as I mentioned earlier, we spent the last 36 months focused on engineering this vehicle. We've chosen componentry early, and we're a business that is producing vehicles today. So yeah, I'm not going to say that it's easy, but it's very, very carefully managed. And we're producing cars and they're being sold today. So yeah,
yep.
Has a high degree of my focus and time.
I was going to say, I hear again that same message of well thought through, building on solid foundation and making sure that you can deliver, because that's the other word that we used earlier in the discussion, delivering and executing upon your plan. And I think that is something else that really, is very noticeable and a strong statement of your organization. Wouter, Isobel, I always find it fascinating. Like people always say, half an hour, is that a lot or is it not a lot? But that half hour already went by, and in fact, I found it extremely interesting, exciting, and stimulating discussion. And I also really appreciate your candor and your openness to discuss, where you are, what you do, and what your plans are going forward. I think you're sitting on a fascinating opportunity, organization. You're executing upon it, and I would say I wish you the very best, and I am anxiously waiting for the next big news. It doesn't have to be a next brand, Wouter. I think, again, looking at all the news, you guys keep moving, shaking, executing, and head off for what you have achieved at the end of the day, what is, through your combination, a fairly young story, but building on a very strong legacy. So thank you to both for your time. Thank you for your candor once again. And as I said, wishing you great success going forward.